Today, in episode 301, Understanding the Buyer Consultation, I'm speaking with Susan Boyer. She is the broker owner of JPAR Silverpath Real Estate, and she discusses how they are training agents to have those conversations and be transparent with buyers. So enjoy the podcast. Susan, welcome to the RealTrending podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about the buyer conversation as it relates to the recent NAR settlement procedures and the August 17th date that has come and gone. But first, I want you to tell me a little bit about your company and how many agents you have, and give me a little background on you.
Sure. So I'm the owner of JPAR Silverpath we're about 35 minutes north of Salt Lake City in Ogden, Utah, Riverdale, right on Riverdale Road. Anybody from Utah? I got into real estate in 2008, and I was licensed in Illinois and Missouri, and I owned a brokerage there, co-owned a brokerage there with a partner. I focused mainly on buyers and the buyer training back then. And so kind of everything that's come about today is the practices that I have always put and implemented in my business. So it's kind of like a welcome breath of fresh air in some ways.
Great. And how many agents do you have?
So I currently have 25 agents.
Okay, great. So, I know it's new, so we don't have a ton of information on the effects yet, but what have you found to be the biggest challenge that agents have when it comes to speaking with buyers about the new policy and procedures?
I think a lot of it is just getting used to being extremely transparent about how you get paid, who is actually paying for it. Ultimately the buyer funds the entire transaction and always has. So there's all different kinds of ways you can look at it, but just being very clear, because that really goes to getting the trust of the consumer, which I think is what we really need to focus on. We can't help guide them through one of the biggest transactions of their lives if we don't even have their trust. And so just being very transparent. And then another challenge that might be is like the buyers are now going to feel more empowered to negotiate. And so having that conversation with them and really showing your value and your worth as a buyer, as a buyer agent. I think it's just really important.
Absolutely. Okay, great. So you have a program, a training program that you use, that you've really built it with the customer in mind. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, knowing all this was kind of coming down the pipeline over the last couple of years, I decided, because I've always had a presentation that kind of really on both the listing and the buy side that really show exactly what an agent does. And for me, all the ancillary things that you can basically hire out are completely different than what an agent actually does. I have a transaction coordinator. I have a licensed assistant. I may not open the door for them. I may not actually be the one facilitating paperwork, but I am the one negotiating and looking out for all the pitfalls that can befall a buyer or a seller. And I'm trained well in those areas. So they're not just paying me for my time. They're paying me for all the knowledge and expertise that I bring and value that I bring to the transaction. I can save buyers and sellers tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars just by helping them search for a better interest rate or avoid a pitfall with negotiation and repairs, that type of thing. So really focusing on what we do as agents and showing that value is just so important. So I decided to build this academy with Shauna. Shauna is really great at operations and implementing, and I'm good at kind of putting the training together and taking the steps needed to get there. If an agent wants to build an actual business, a solid foundation, which I think is what agents really need to focus on now, you can't fly from transaction to transaction by the seat of your pants, just not even knowing where your next meal is coming from. That's no way to operate. That's fight or flight. And you can't service your client well in that mindset. And so we are actually teaching people agents, how to fish for leads, how to have an actual business that will feed them through any market change or shift. And that's how I've always operated. And teaching others to do it actually really is a good feeling. And that's kind of what we do. It's a training academy. College degree in real estate, because man, you pass that test, your 120 hours or whatever it is in your state, and they just kind of throw you out there. And plumbers have like internships or apprenticeships, and we really need that in real estate. And that's kind of what this is. We're holding their hand, showing them the daily activities, the knowledge that they have to have, building a foundation for them to that's solid, that they can actually implement. And no matter what happens with the market, people are always buying and selling real estate. You just have to be their guide.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said it's called the Total Agent Academy?
Yes, Total Agent Academy. It's kind of based upon how we trained our agents at my brokerage in Illinois, Missouri that I co-owned. We had I figure if you're going to be in real estate, you might as well be serious about it. It's not a hobby. You're being entrusted with people's, foundation, their stability is what housing is. And that's what we get to deal with. It's one of the top 5 stressors in someone's life is moving, buying a new home. So we really need to be mindful of that. And if you want to do it, you need to dive in and get good at it. Understand all the nuances.
Absolutely. So what are some of the steps that you're taking to really ensure that transparency is with buyers regarding agent compensation is a part of what all of your buyers agents are explaining?
Sure. So early disclosure, breaking down with that buyer exactly how you get paid, why you're worth what it is they're paying you, what you're negotiating to be paid, how the different nuances are in the transaction, like being extremely transparent with that, giving them detailed breakdowns. Like Palm Agent is implementing a new feature of their app that is going to, or having some type of system like that where you're showing the buyer exactly what it will cost them. No more, pretending like we're the benevolent servants and nobody knows how we get paid, right? Like that, we can't do that anymore. It's very important to be very transparent. And we have written materials that we're putting out there that's like, this is what's changed. This is what has not changed, right? We've always been able to negotiate commissions. We've always been able, so really that's not changed. Just how we do it is a little different. So giving them things in writing and helping build their trust. I've always had my 5-star pledge that I have hanging on my wall back there, and showing them that I promise to be honest in all communication, and having a list of things that they can expect when working with me or any of my agents. And then just really being transparent in negotiation. When you're on the listing side, you're always giving them net sheets, right? Because it matters what they're walking away with. And same thing on the buy side. We're giving them a buyer net sheet, if you will.
Okay. And is that something that's been added to your buyer consultations since this, or is that something that you've always really done?
Something I've always done, but definitely training other agents to do it and making it more of a common practice in our industry, I think is really important. It's time to be extremely transparent like we've never been before.
Yeah. And what are you hearing from your agents as far as, has it been difficult for them to have that conversation, or do you feel like it's really been easier than they expected?
I think they're finding it's way easier, that people expect us to be paid. Everybody, if you're doing the things that most of us as agents do, and you're just starting to articulate the value, most people are finding people want us to be paid. They're not expecting us to work for free. And when you're really showing them what you do, we have some of them say, man, I think you're worth that every penny and more. Look at what you just saved me. I would have never got through this without you. How many of us are having people say that to us at the end of a transaction? I know I'm not the only one. I've heard other agents. I read other agents' reviews. So really, really pick up on that and use that to show people what it is you're doing to help them get through this. We think it's easy, maybe because we do it every day, but really it's a huge bit of someone's life, and they really need someone to help guide them through and help them avoid the pitfalls.
I want to get specific with you on some of the best practices for buyer consultations. What advice do you have for agents, and what are some of the things that you found have worked for your agents when doing a buyer consultation?
So like as of right now, it's you're having that meeting with them before you're going to the home, right? So if you're speaking with someone, it's like, okay, can we hop on a quick phone call? Can we meet at the coffee house around the corner? Would you like to come into my office to sit down, go over a strategizing session? Have you heard what's going on with the changes that have come to our industry? Is kind of something that I use to bring it up now that I maybe didn't in the past. And I wanted to go over with them so that you can make the best choices and decisions when moving forward with your home buying experience. And that would entail me sitting down with you for a quick 15-minute kind of strategizing session. Sound good? Yeah. So they come in, and then I go over my 5-star pledge. This is what you can expect to get when working with me, right? Then I have an actual buyer presentation that breaks down my 122 plus things that I do as an agent for them that are not actually have very little to do with writing offers or anything. It's, I have it broken down into 7 categories of I'll negotiate with your best interest in mind. And here's all the things I think about when I'm doing that. Kind of showing them all the knowledge and expertise you have to have as an agent. And that's what's most important. They want to know what your unique value is to the transaction. One of the things we do is open doors, but I look at that more figuratively. Somebody else may actually open the door for them, but I'm the one who's making it all possible. I'm making sure that I've got their best interests covered. And as an agent, that's what you need to do. You need to show that value. And if you don't know your value, there are agents out there who do, who I know this industry, and we all want to share, we all want to grow together. Reach out. Get with someone who can actually help walk you through that. Join our academy. We'll help you. So we take them step by step through exactly what to do. So.
And let's talk about that a little bit. So you said it's really new agents, but I assume that all agents can go through it, whether you're new or not, especially given all of the changes. So what have you found in your own office? What type of ongoing education are you doing? And how is that impacting how your agents are going out to the public?
Sure. So first of all, a lot of my agents have been through the academy. So that was a lot of the training we went through the beginning of this year. And then this whole summer, I had my When Life Gives You Lemons mastermind series where they would come in every other week to the office, and we would talk about different ways to implement the changes and what's going on with the market, and kind of just making sure everybody was geared up so that when August 17th came, there was little to no changes that had to be done other than learning the new paperwork that came out, right? And that was about it. So I love talking about agency. I have a passion for it. I believe that having that fiduciary responsibility for our clients is that we need to take it extremely important. And so one of the things that I advocate is making sure, in our industry, if I can just kind of get on my soapbox just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy to become an agent, and it's really, when you look at it, cheap, right? Like it doesn't cost much. And what I mean by cheap is it doesn't cost much on the grand scale of things to become an agent. It costs way more to become an airline pilot, way more to become a doctor, way more to become an attorney. And quite frankly, the sky is the limit with what we can make and the difference we can make in our industry. And so that mindset for agents, I think, needs to shift. And we really need to think about what do we need to learn to actually serve in these roles, right? Like a lot of people, I think, get in thinking, and I was one of them. I confess to being one of them. I was watching HGTV back in 2007 when I decided to get my license, and I thought, oh, that looks so glamorous, it looks so nice, and it looks easy, right? What agents find is we make it look so easy for those on the outside that once they become an agent, they're like, what the heck happened? I had no idea that all this was going on behind the scenes, right? And so really need to invest in your education. And with the way things are with brokerages and things, it's you need to have and invest in, just because you got your license, you need to invest in that advanced knowledge that it's going to take from making you be just an interested agent to an obsessed agent, right? Someone who goes the extra mile, who has the systems and processes in place and is actually running a business. And that will make all the difference.
That same HGTV kind of has consumers thinking that real estate is very glamorous from the agent perspective as well. So, and that they make tons of money. So
yes, absolutely. And they don't realize that the average agent is just out there barely scraping by. That's the average agent. And really, my goal is to elevate those agents who are just barely scraping by and give them an actual business blueprint and really show them the value that they bring. And once you do that, it's amazing what agents can do in this industry and the differences. You know, when you look at what housing does for the stability of a community and how we as agents all have a part in that. Guiding someone who never, ever thought they'd ever. I had a client about 10 years ago, and it was so rewarding. He was basically his family had never owned property. 5th generation, nobody owned property, always been renters, and I helped him get into a home. And he was just beside himself. He's like, you have no idea. My whole family is so proud of me. And I mean, just things like that. Like, look at the ability we have to help others actually change their lives. And so that's more so what I do as an agent. I don't, I may write up contracts, but it's the negotiations that I do that help get them where they need to be, or figuring out how to get them financed, or get them, holding their hand through it and kind of being their cheerleader and knowing the right people to get them to talk to make it happen. That's what I do as an agent.
And so how do you see this buyer conversation evolving as we continue kind of to adjust to what's going on, or the new normal? Have you already seen that happen? And how do you expect it to adjust as you move along?
Sure. So first of all, I see buyers, taking a more active role. I see them being choosier about who they choose to represent them. I really feel if we continue to show our value, 89% of buyers chose to have an advocate work for them last year as when they during the home buying process. That was up 3% from the year before. So people want representation. They want someone to show them how to get from point A to point B and have it all work out, right? Not be a disaster. So, but I do see them being choosier, because now that they realize that they are actually paying for it, they should have been realizing it all along, but, as an industry, we're now making double sure that they know, right? they're going to get choosier. And what that means is I think the competition is going to get fierce. Agents are either going to have to build a business and build systems and processes, or they may not be in our career path, not be an agent anymore. They might choose to do something different because it's hard to build it. But man, if you can do it, the reward is amazing. So that's more so how I see it evolving. I think sellers too are going to get more savvy. We're going to see some shifts going on for a while, I think, until everything kind of comes out in the wash. And so as agents, we just have to pivot. We have to be able to help guide people in the middle of it all, right? So being on top of our game, paying attention to what's going on, going to as much continuing education as you possibly can is going to be the key.
Definitely. And as far as the consultation itself, building one, I mean, do you find that they're, building them just like a listing presentation, but now it's a buyer consultation presentation?
Yeah. And everybody's presentations are a little different. I've always focused on showing my value, showing what it is that I do, whether it be listing or buyer, showing my knowledge and expertise. I would hope everybody is showing that more other than just going through and this is why we stage, and this is why we do this, and this is why, that's great, and it's good that that's a presentation, but that should be in addition to what your unique value is and how you're going to help them through the process. What are you going to do if you find out that the roof has a major leak in it? What's your process and system for that? Who do you have in place to help with that? How can you help save money? How can you negotiate through that to make sure a deal doesn't fall apart if something goes awry with inspections? That's more so what I would actually look for in an attorney if I was going to court. What types of cases have you handled like this before? And that's more so how we have to deliver our value, I feel. So.
Okay, my last question is just any last thoughts, any last piece of advice for agents who may be struggling with, what to say to buyers during this time?
You really need to find your niche, and you really need to find those people who have a good grasp on agency and understanding the history of agency, how we got where we are today, and where we need to go moving forward. Find those people who can help you get through that. We do that. That's one of the things we focus on at Total Agent Academy, is walking them through how we got here and how we're going to get through where we're going, right? Here's your path. Here's your business blueprint. Here's how you need to operate as an agent. And then once we teach them that foundation and that blueprint, they can go off and build amazing businesses off of, the foundation that we're giving them. So if it's not Total Agent Academy, find some place, hopefully your broker, wherever, that can help you walk through those conversations that can be difficult at first, right? But those conversations with your client, because you can't ignore the elephant in the room. Everybody knows, and you need to talk about it, and you need to have a clear, concise speaking points that you're able to articulate, or else, it's going to be a rough one for you. So.
Yeah. Well, Susan, thank you so much for joining the RealTrending podcast today. We really appreciate you spending time with us.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.